All right, shalom, and welcome back, family, to the Kingdom of Israel. So today we're going to get off into no kings, also pointing out Christianity is someone's opinion. It's not rooted within the pristine heritage of the people. So we're going to look at that. And in order for you to understand, like, what's meant by Christianity not being rooted within the pristine heritage of the people, you'd have to understand that history where the Idumeans or the Edomites, right, how they infiltrated and they took over the heritage. They ruled. Herod, he was an Idumean king. In other words, he was a Roman. And this is something that's not discussed for the most part within your seminary schools, within your churches. So this is why I'm coming in to express Christianity is someone's opinion, which goes back to where I stated that it's made up. It's a man-made thing, period. So do not be enticed or misled by sinners. That terminology, sinners, it's interesting terminology because it triggers people, right? It's so related, to a religious outlook. That's about as far as you can get with it. But if you don't get caught up on the semantics, it's just saying don't be misled by people that refuse to even follow the standards within the principles. And this is what you find within Christianity and how it's a part of someone's opinion because they do not allow themselves to be led by what's written. All right. So let me just jump off into it. No kings. That's the other thing. No kings. Right. But in the book, in the writing, it speaks specifically about a king or kings, a nation of kings. So when you have within this society today where they're priming you up, they're mentally grooming you as they run out with the no kings, protests. And I get it. I know, what they were intending and what they're looking for, but the broader scope, of that, it's taking a dig at what's coming with respect to a king and or a king of kings, even as it's tied to a race of people being the Negro. So here we go, out the gate. Some of you you're upset. You say, oh, you talking about color. Well, unbeknownst to you, color is in the Bible. When it talks about maintaining your stock, maintaining, your race, it's actually there. But when I speak with respect to this heritage and the Negro and us as who we identify ourselves as Black people, I'm not saying that we are the only chosen people of the Creator, because he does, and though it is written that his people are a speckled bird. Okay, I get it. You don't have no issue with me there. But if you're not of that seed, then you're not of that race. You're not of that stock. That stock can have a variation of colors, but you can't be a part of that stock just because you say, I believe in Jesus. That doesn't qualify you to be a part of the heritage. And this is where we get into Christianity is someone's opinion. It's not rooted within the heritage of the people. So don't be enticed. Don't be deceived, by those that are misleading others within the scope of a man-made religion. So they want you to believe there's no king. But for this, we have to have rulership over the entire world, and the king is identified as a Negro. Oh, that's a problem. Because some of y'all got white Jesus so ingrained in your brain that you just tapped out. You don't want to hear no more. Truth is just irritating your backside. But we're going to get off into it because, as usual, I have pages upon pages upon pages of precepts that I want to get into. And I just want to say this about these writings also. I always have to get into. Today, we're talking about the mystery, right? We're not dealing with this from the standpoint of literally how you deal with it. We have to go into the allegory, the parable. So I was pointing to when you're reading this book, you all, and all you can rely on is your literal understanding, you're going to be like taken off point. This book is written with so many different twists and turns. If the spirit of the Creator is not working with you to know when these things take place, and all you have is that literal sense, then for certain, you're going to be taken off course, off point, at some point, right? So let me get off into it. Basically, as I'm saying, if you don't understand the mystery, if these things are not revealed to you as the writing tell you it must happen, and all you're dealing with is your carnal knowledge, your ability to understand as a man or a woman, you must know your limitation. That's all I'm saying. So here we go. 2 Peter 2:1. He says, I stir up your pure mind by way of remembrance. What are we being called to remember, you all? We're being called to remember the way of righteousness, which so many of us would rather forget because we're in a world of convenience centered around decadence, lust. Experience as much as you want to experience with no guardrail, no penalty, no accountability. Just do it till you're satisfied. He said that you may be mindful of the words which I have which were spoken before by the holy prophets. So right now, a number of folks are like, who are these holy prophets? Within Christianity, they do not give the definition of the holy prophets. They skip over all of that. They don't give you insight into the testimony, being what the prophets have written about. Then it says, and of the commandments of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior. So in association with the Lord and the Savior, there are commandments, meaning laws. But within modern theology today, they don't talk about laws. It's as if there are no rules except Believe. Just say you believe, and that's the defining factor for you to have salvation. That's all you got to do. Jesus done did the rest. He says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers. Even as I'm pointing this out, there are a number of you of the religion, you're a scoffer. And you don't even know it. Because you can't accept what you say you want, which is truth. He said, walking after their own lust. And that's what you do. Under the veil of Christianity, quiet is kept. You're walking after your own lust because it doesn't challenge you. It doesn't ask you to change. They just say, come as you are. And that's not grounded within any standard of principle. And this is why I say Christianity is the opinion of someone else. It's not rooted within the heritage of the people. He said, you're walking after your own lust and saying, where is the promise of this coming? As so many have said, day in and day out, like y'all been talking about this for so long. He said, for since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. I've heard this before. I'm sure some of you may have heard it, as well, as to where some folks will say, this evil has been since the beginning of time. So for that reason, don't come talking to me about discipline. I'm going to do what I want to do. And this is where it says, you're walking after your own lust. He says, for this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was being overflowed with water perished. It's saying because of the mindset of men pulling the world out of balance, it brings about their own destruction. And if you have eyes to see, you can understand we're headed toward another degree of destruction. He said, but heaven and earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, reserved until fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So it's giving us indication that in this term, when the earth is actually restored, it's going to happen by fire. And a number of you, because you're under the impression that this has been happening since the beginning of time, you don't think anything is coming. And you're just vicariously living your life. Now I want to take you, I'm going to read Ezekiel 34, and I'm going to read that all the way down to number 16. And after that, I'm really going to get into the defining elements of this discussion today. But Ezekiel 34:1, he says, and the word of the Lord came to me saying, Son of man, son of man, son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Now, when we say Israel here, we're not talking about what they have going on over there in the Middle East, because like Christianity being of someone's opinion, it's not real. The state of Israel is definitely fabricated. It has nothing to do with the scriptures, except for the fact that these are imposters, or, they're blaspheming within the name of God's chosen people. In other words, they're lying, trying to act as if these writings speak to them. But if you're truly paying attention, this is just what Europeans do. They hijack various aspects of whatever heritage they can, and they pop up, and as you've heard me say before, they become whatever people they feel they need to be. But when you look at the makeup of the Europeans today, those that call themselves the Jewish people, they ain't nothing but Europeans. And in fact, when you look at what transpired, from a World War II, this was the clash of Europeans. And they finally came to a point where they were like, you know what? We can't take this position against our own. We can't be fighting amongst ourselves. And they then created their European unions and started to then help the different, classes, or not classes, but the different aspects of their heritage, different types of Europeans. That's all we're looking at. This is all theater. Okay. He said, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say unto them, thus saith the Lord God unto the shepherds, woe be to the shepherds of Israel that do not feed, that do feed themselves. This is what we see within Christianity. Even when you look at the prosperity doctrine, these folks have turned it into a mega business. And they're not giving people the understanding necessary for salvation, but they know how to keep their hands in your pocket and make you feel good about spirituality to some sense and a way, because it's appealing to your lust, as to where most people don't want to do anything. He said that do feed themselves. He says, should not the shepherd feed the flocks? And it's in understanding what they're supposed to teach and or talk about. According to the writings, you're supposed to teach and talk about principles. You don't get that when you go into these seminary schools and or these churches dealing with these bishops and these ministers and these pastors today. They don't talk about commandments and or principles. They have a motivational story for you. He said, ye eat the fat and ye clothe you with the wool. You kill them that are fed. When it says right here, you kill them that are fed, I'm going to come back to that part for you. I'm going to read this again. Ye eat the fat and ye clothe you with the wool. You kill them that are fed, but you feed not the flock. So let me go back to that one part where he says, you kill them that are fed. And this is what I mean. If you're reading this from your literal comprehension, you'll never understand that. You'll never understand it. Oh, well, I ain't going to do that. You'll never understand what is meant by you kill them that are fed. So from the literal sense, you just read over it and you just keep going. Your pastor can't tell you what it means. They haven't talked about this verse. Some of you want to think your pastor or your bishop would know, but just pull the record. Send me a clip. I'd be happy, to pull back and say, you know what? I made that comment and, there is someone that, of the Christian cloth and or faith that did, but you're not going to find it. So here, you kill them that are fed. It's saying within the institutions of Christianity, they're silencing those that come to speak the truth. But yet they won't turn around and give people the truth. This is what it's saying when he says, you kill them that are fed. You want to terminate those individuals that are speaking to uplift the people because it interferes with your business, your money-making empire. He says, the diseased have you not strengthened, neither have you healed that which was sick, neither have you bound up that which was broken. All they do is play drums and dance, and it's theater. Neither have you brought again that which was driven away. They're not bringing people back to the standard of righteousness, but the pastor continues to chase the deacon's wife. The institution is riddled with fornication, boyfriends and girlfriends, and homosexuality, and all sorts of abominations in the name of Jesus. Neither have ye sought that which was lost, but with force and with cruelty have you ruled them. The force and the cruelty have you ruled them. This goes into the history of how a Roman Catholicism, Christianity, even the scope of Judaism today has come into play. It's not centered around the point or the fact that the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. It is or has been centered around coercion, psychologically manipulating people. He says, and they were scattered because there is no shepherd. And they became meat to all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. What does it mean when it says they became meat to all the beasts of the field? Take us, for example, right here in the United States of America. We are the one people that is oppressed. The advantage is being taken of our people by the government in your face. Like, you ain't gonna do nothing, you ain't gonna say nothing. And the ministers, the bishops, and the institutions of Christianity, they don't say nothing. They act as if it's normal. It's okay. He says, my sheep wander through all the mountains and upon every hill. All the mountains and upon every hill. The mountains is talking about these different governments. The beasts are representative of men. These are different societies, kingdoms, and worlds within periods of time that we've traveled and continue from one oppression into the next, from one generation into the next. Because we don't have righteousness, but we're being led by corruption. He says, and upon every hill, yea, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth, and none did search or seek after them. See, the wicked is in rule and no place right now. So if you were to search and seek after God's chosen people, that means the wicked would have to come down so that righteousness could be erected. So it's in their favor as they seek power and control to keep the people oppressed, that they can maintain the power and control. And they do everything they can to prevent the uprising of God's chosen people, and more specifically, the Negro. Because the Negro is at the forefront of God's chosen people. Oh, they don't teach and don't talk about this within your religion, seminary schools and Catholicism, and Judaism. He said, therefore, ye shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As I live, saith the Lord God, surely because my flock became a prey, the oppressed people of the Creator have become a prey. He said, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because we're the most hated people in the world, undeniably, hands down. And they made certain that we were demonized. He said, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherd search for my flock. Because you have those of us who should be fighting for this liberation. You've become hirelings, like they give you money. You've become a Judas. You've accepted the fact that, oh, you're making $200,000 a year. You have that good job. You have these accolades. So you're quiet. You're pretending as if there is no oppression and everything is fine. If folks were to just pattern themselves similar to what you're doing, it would all be okay. He says, where was I? Therefore, O ye shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flock. The lies are going to stop. The corruption is going to come to an end. I know a number of you don't believe it. But this evil can't continue. He said, neither shall the shepherds feed themselves anymore. Your prosperity doctrine and all of these institutions, they must come down in order for righteousness to reign. Now, here's the thing. I don't know why some of you have a problem with talking about what it means for righteousness to reign. He says, for I will deliver my flock from their mouth. Meaning the understanding is going to change. The conversation is going to be more direct. The lies will be dispelled. Because there's a particular people that's needed to put the earth back on course. No more global warming. No more climate change. No more disease. These are things that we should be looking for. Clean air, clean food, water. Right now, everything is polluted under their leadership. Don't you see it? Don't you hear it? A number of you would want to continue denying it because this world of corruption gives you great leverage and or benefit. He says, I will deliver my flock out of their mouth, that they may not be meat for them. He says, for thus saith the Lord God, behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep. Everybody is not a part of this development as we look to turn the world around. And I know within the walls of Christianity, they tell you it's going to be a kumbaya moment. This is why I say Christianity is of someone's opinion. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the pristine heritage of the people. It's way out of scope based on what's written. He says, will both search my sheep and seek them out, as a shepherd seek out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered. He says, so will I seek out my sheep and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. You all, this is the cloudy and dark day. Do you all not see all of the pain, all of the frustration, all of the anguish, the war? Do you not see the devastation? This is the cloudy and dark day. Some folks say, oh, you're preaching gloom and you're preaching doom. No, I'm bringing awareness for those that will hear it, for those that will see it. 13, he says, and I will bring them out from the people. This runs in contrast to the Christian doctrine or philosophy that everybody is going to be, in some love fest, hugging and kissing type stuff. But here he says a particular people is going to be separated from amongst people. He says, and gather them from the countries and will bring them to their own land. Some of you want to argue about what land and this and that. You go right ahead. I look forward to understanding what it means to be brought into my own land, wherever that may be, whatever that is. I'd love to see it. I'd love to be a part of it. No argument from me. And you'll come to understand why I say this. He said, and feed them upon the mountain of Israel by the rivers. The mountain of Israel. Again, literally, you all are thinking about some big mountain, but in this sense, it's talking about the way the government will be ran. That's what's going to bring us prosperity and or control. No different than you see the way governments are ran today and who the benefit and or prosperity goes to, although it's corrupt. He says, and in all the inhabited places of the country, his people are going to be raised up. And you'll come to understand even more why. I'm going to hold it. I ain't going to give it up just yet. In 14, he says, I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountain of Israel shall their fold be. This is when God's chosen people are ruling the world. The new world order is in place, and it has nothing to do with what you've been taught and or told. Europeans are not going to be in rule. They're not associated with God's chosen people. They're not of the seed. They're not a part of the speckled bird that's talked about. In fact, these people are the enemy of the Creator. But because Christianity is someone's opinion, they don't teach and don't talk to you about these things that are written, because their God, in the name of a Jesus, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, sitting over top of Brazil in a stone statue and within every Catholic church, their God is said to love everybody. And in that, the European will never have to pay for the crimes that they've committed throughout humanity. But in these writings, which is how you can understand they didn't write this, because in here it talks about their judgment. Oh, but they don't want to teach that in the seminary schools, because white Jesus is love, forgiveness. But in this book, it talks about revenge, retribution for the acts that have been committed, first against God's chosen people. And when you identify that God's chosen people is also associated with the Negro, you don't want to have this conversation no more. Because the world has whitewashed your mind. And you want forgiveness for the oppressor. But this is what makes the Creator a just Creator. Just like we had to suffer and pay for the crimes that we've committed, and like, I don't know what my forefathers did, but I still have to deal with these atrocities. Their offspring and their generations are going to have to deal with the atrocities of their forefathers. So all of that, I ain't have nothing to do with it, that's not going to fly. Furthermore, that's beyond me. But trust and believe, as it is written, they will not escape. He says, I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, saith the Lord God, meaning we'll finally have some reprieve. We'll finally live within the accountability of righteousness. Number 16, it says, I will seek that which was lost, righteousness, and will bring again that which was driven away, righteousness, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong. I will feed them with judgment. Oh, your Christian schools and your Sunday church, they're not going to talk to you about what this verse is displaying. Because somebody's going to have to pay for all of the lies, all of the destruction, all of the oppression. And the face of the confusion is the European. But I mean, it upsets a number of you to hear that. because you just want everything to be okay. Somebody's going to have to deal. Somebody is responsible. And I'm just telling you right here, he says he's going to destroy the fat and the strong. Who's fat and strong right now? Oh, but if you're, again, trying to deal with this from a literal sense, you really may not have any idea. But when you look at the rise of the European code name, they're actually the offspring of an Esau, an Edomite, the Idumeans. Their blessing from their father, Isaac, their blessing was that they would have control over the earth through conquering by way of the sword. Who is that? Can you make the association and or the connection? They would live in the best places of the world. They would sit on high. This was their blessing. And you can see them living through their blessing. The issue is the outcome. It ends with judgment. So they've done everything within their power to deceive people as if there is no Edom, there is no Esau, there is no Idumean. It's not us. We don't know what you're talking about. So they've used their influence and their power to persuade the minds of the people through their institutions of education and religion. I know you don't want to talk about it, a number of you, because you're satisfied thinking we're all going to hold hands and live together. I had the white boys and the black boys and the black girls it's all a lie. But we are going to live together. It's just within a different standard of order, one that they do not teach or talk about within our world today, but it's going to happen. Amos 9 and 10, you all. Switching gears right here. He says, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword. So here, within the chosen people, there are a number of you that are just rebellious. You're not going to turn. You're not going to stand with your heritage. Sinners mean those who transgress the principle. He said they are going to die by the sword. They don't talk about this in Catholicism, Christianity, the seminary schools. He said, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Hey, they're saying America is great. Democracy is great. Just go out and vote. We can fix this. What's happening in the world right now, it's not going to end. He says, in that day, I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. Meaning we're going to return to the state of rulership within righteousness. And close up the breaches thereof, meaning the divide between God's chosen people is going to be mended. No more arguing. The speckled bird, that one seed will finally be in agreement. The division and the separation that the enemy has used to keep us against each other will be silenced. He says, and I will raise up his ruins. This is talking about the New World Order. This is going into what rulership is going to look like in the future, because America is falling right before your very eyes. The superpower is ending right before your very eyes. He says, and I will build it as in the days of old. Now, either God is going to make America great again, or he's going to raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. Both things can't be true. They can't, both of these things can't exist. One has to not be in perspective in order for the other to come into full fruition. And when he talk about that tabernacle of David that is fallen, to give that a deeper perspective within meaning and understanding, it's looking at those men, this body of people that are going to rise up within standard, within stature. Here's the part, I got to finish this. Let me go back. He says, and I will build it as in the days of old. Here we go. That they may possess the remnant of Edom. See? That's the part right there, because right there it says, for what the Europeans have done within the rulership of the world, they're going to be in captivity. That they may possess the remnant of Esau that has run amok. Then he says, and all the heathen. So where is the unification within the doctrine of Christianity and Jesus coming to hug and love on everybody? Two things can't be true here. Now, within your mind, you're going to continue to believe the lies that you have been taught and or told by the oppressor, or you're going to come to say, wait a minute, I need to relook at this. I need to rethink this. He says, they're going to possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen. Reason being, the world has to be put back on its right course. And there's a specific body of government that's going to do it. No different than the world is off its course right now, and there's a specific body of people that are responsible for it, although some of you would love to deny it. But this is happening within real time in front of our eyes. He says, and all the heathen, which are called by my name, saith the Lord, that do this. Psalms 2:8, he says, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. They're not going to read this to you in seminary school. And the uttermost part of the earth for thy possession. This is where the New World Order comes into place. You're not going to catch this in mainstream media. They do not use their institutions to talk about their judgment and their downfall. But in these writings, it does speak to their end. And this is how you know they didn't write it. But they did create Christianity to throw you off the trail, to keep you off track. And I know for a number of you, this would be hard to hear. It's like I'm taking a dig at your mother or your father, or you take it personal. But you say you want the truth. Zechariah 12:9. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. This is not talking about no Netanyahu and no state of Israel. Even that is going to fall. And that will be shown also to be a lie. But he's going to destroy all nations that come against his chosen people and or the government within righteousness. They will have no rulership. They will have no say. They will have no standing. For a number of you, this is devastating to hear. He says, and I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. These are the people that will lead the future in righteousness. Now, I know for a number of you why it's problematic, because we can't fathom what righteous rule will look like because of all of the corruption we've seen historically within men and governments. But this conversation and this government is not associated with that past demeanor of men and governments. It's distinctly different. First Chronicles 28:5. He says, and of all my sons, for the Lord have given me many sons, he have chosen Solomon, my son, to sit upon the throne of the kingdom of the Lord over Israel. Now, this concept about the chosen and many sons, we really should pay strict attention to what this goes into. You may have heard me, maybe you've been in the room when I went through the sons of God. How you go through that genealogy, in Genesis, where it will specifically name, for example, you have Adam. It says Adam had other sons and daughters or other children, but yet Seth was chosen. Seth had other daughters, other sons, other children, but yet Enos. And it goes on and on and on, and it continues to point out a specific individual, all the way down from Noah to Shem to Abraham. There's always one that is highlighted to be the Son of God. So in this instance of all the sons, Solomon was chosen to rule the kingdom of Israel, which is the world, as we come to see what it's talking about. This is why earlier when it said he's going to take them into their land, and I'm telling you, I'm not trying to argue. I want to see what that is, because ultimately we have rulership over the entire world. And all the nations within the entire world centered around righteousness, because there will be no room for evil and or corruption. It will be eliminated. I know that seems impossible, because a number of you want to say it's been like that since the beginning of time. Well, I just read how it expressed you would think that. But if we're going to follow the dialogue within prophecy, it tells us that comes to an end. Jeremiah 30:10. Thank you all for coming into the live, by the way. You all tap the screen. That part doesn't cost anything. Share the live, repost the live. Appreciate you all for continuing to come back. Jeremiah 30:10. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar. He's going to save thee from afar. They don't teach this within your institutions. He said, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. They don't talk about this within your institutions. And Jacob shall return. They don't teach this in your institutions. And shall be in rest and be quiet. This means going to be in rulership, and there will be peace in the earth. I would hope that you want peace in the earth. He said, and none shall make him afraid, meaning no one's going to be able to do anything about it. All nations will be under the hand of righteousness. As now, all the nations are under the hand of corruption. First Chronicles 28:7. He says, moreover, I will establish his kingdom forever. This is how you understand God is not going to make America great again. This is why the rhetoric within Christian nationalists doesn't make sense. This is why Christianity is someone's opinion. It's not associated or rooted within the pristine heritage of the people. It has nothing to do with the law or the testimony, being the prophecy. Therefore, there's no truth in it. If you understand Isaiah. His kingdom will be established forever. That means no more corruption, no more wickedness. We should be ready for this. We should be looking to try and understand, what do we have to do in order to be a part of this refreshing? But some of you want to argue and dispute righteousness. But you can't dispute truth. You can't argue against righteousness, but to your end, your demise, your failure. He says, if he be constant, So come back. He says, moreover, I will establish his kingdom forever. As you all have heard me talk about, we have to turn back to righteousness. The kingdom is established forever. He says, if he be constant to do my commandments and my judgments, as at this day, meaning it doesn't change. But within the construct of Christianity, it changed. This is why I'm telling you, your beloved Christianity is nothing more than the invention of some man's creative mind. Furthermore, it's a European man who created Christianity. He was an Edomite. He was an Idumean. He was a Roman. As I said, Herod. When you read the book, Herod was an Idumean king. They infiltrated the heritage. They took it over like they take over so many other heritage. As we see today, this is where you get the white Hebrew Israelites. They're Edomites. They're Idumeans. They're Amalek. These are different classes or factions of Europeans. He says, now therefore in the sight of all Israel, the congregation of the Lord. Let me read that again. Now therefore in the sight of all Israel, the congregation of the Lord. This is saying, beyond what they want you to think within Christianity, that it's about the church, and whosoever say they believe in Jesus, no matter if you of the seed or not, now it's all a spiritual Israel. This is what I'm saying. Everything they teach and say go against what's written. This is how you need not allow yourself to be deceived. The congregation is God's chosen people, the seed, Israel. He says, and in the audience of our God, keep and seek for all the commandments of the Lord your God. This is how we maintain leadership and rulership within a world of righteousness. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is pick it up and apply it. But popular persuasion, right, and the world institutions and the way they've governed the minds of the people through education, you don't want to deal with that because you think they've already figured it out. Their policies, their procedures, their law, their way. But they're leading people to a devastating end. He said that ye may possess this good land and leave it for an inheritance for your children after you forever. So in order for us to maintain control over the world, in order for us to maintain control over the world, we must go to the standards within his commandments, within his judgments, and lead and rule according to that. And then our generation, after another generation, will stand in leadership as to where now we stand within oppression. Generations of oppression. It's amazing. You can live through and see the generations of oppression with them in rulership and running things to the ground. But as I'm speaking to you as to what it looks like when things turn around, you refute, you dispute it. You can't believe it. Psychologically, you've been duped. But in order for us to rule the world forever as God's chosen people, it's already displayed and or expressed how we have to do it. And fortunately, it has nothing to do with the European people. You can see the way they rule the world. You can see the way they govern. You can see historically what they've done. Deuteronomy 28:13. He says, and the Lord shall make thee the head. Some of you have a problem with the Lord deciding to make somebody the head. And that somebody is not a European, a white man. He says, and not the tail, because right now we are the tail. And why? Why are we the tail? Why do we have such hard time? It's because we're rebellious. It's because we continue to allow ourselves to be deceived. Because it's easier to go along with the confusion than to hold ourselves accountable first to ourselves. He says he'll make us the head, not the tail. And thou shalt be above only. You got to stop right there just for a second. We're not going to share the kingdom. We're not going to share rulership of the world as they teach in Christianity. This is why I say it's somebody's opinion. Because this says you're going to be made the head, not the tail, and you're going to be above only. Distinguished, set apart. They don't teach this in their theology, in their seminary schools. He said, and thou shalt not be beneath. Where are we right now? We're at the bottom. We are the most hated people in the world. If thou hearken unto the commandments, that's the key, of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them. Obedience to righteousness, you all. They spend billions of dollars within their industry to persuade us to not pay attention to these words, to these instructions. Matthew 11:12. He says, and from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffer violence, and the violent take it by force. So here, when you talk about us being the head and not the tail, it's explaining heaven on earth. Rulership within righteousness was taken by violence. It was taken by force. Who did it, y'all? Who did it? Who took it by violence? Historically. Who does history show in violence? Conquering. How did they rise to power? Luke 21:24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Once again, here's a verse that lets you know the state of Israel is fake. Or this verse is false. And that of a Christ, the anointed one, is a false prophet. But we know the people were taken by the edge of the sword. Historically, it happened. We know they were led away captive and pushed into what you call the diaspora. We got fancy little names for everything. And then it said Jerusalem will be trodden down of the Gentiles. To this day, that's what you have in that land. Netanyahu and all the cronies and all them that consider themselves to be the Ish people, they're Gentiles until this day. Why? The time of the Gentiles has not yet been fulfilled. So he says, until the end of Gentile rulership, the land is going to be filled with a people from another nation, calling themselves Israel, Jew, the people of God. But this is what they do. Deuteronomy 29, 28 and 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday. And this is us as we walk around and we can see and touch, taste and feel everything. He said, as the blind grope in darkness, meaning we don't have any understanding because we've been indoctrinated as a people. We were raised through their institutions. Our understanding and knowledge, it comes through their books, their scholars, their teachers. So this conversation for a number of you, it sounds way too foreign. As the blind grope in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy way. We're not prospering. We're oppressed. Somebody just said, oh, I'm prospering. I make money. I got money. When your people are oppressed, you're not prospering. He said, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. This is a bold statement that's being made. This is a plea to a chosen people. Malcolm X can't do it. Martin Luther King can't do it. Marcus Garvey can't do it. No man is going to be able to do it. And as long as we live within this world and we're following the ways of these other nations and or these Europeans, we're only going to be oppressed. And it says we're not going to prosper. Tell me it ain't happening. Tell me you don't feel it. He says you will be oppressed only, always. From generation to generation. He said, but if we want to be out of that oppression, he said, go to the proper standing within the law and the commandment, my judgments, live according to this. I'll make you the head and you'll be the head only. But they spend billions of dollars to divert your attention to something else. They then invent something else that is it appeals to your lust. They know you're addicted to corruption. They know you're addicted to a wicked lifestyle. They trained the people to be that way. So they go and they create some other invention to try to pull you back into the addiction, as some of you are honestly trying to wean yourself off or come up out of that corrupt understanding. Ecclesiasticus 38 and number 9, he says, "Son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole. Leave off from sin." He's saying, stop going against the principles. Sin is just transgression. Sin is being rebellious. He says, leave off from sin. Simple instruction. It seems like it anyway. "And order thine hand aright." How do we order our hand aright? Because we don't have the proper institutions teaching us what righteousness is. And when someone stands out to speak according to it, we turn away from it because it's challenging our level of comfort. But he says, order thy hand aright, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness. I really don't know what else we could be looking for, or why we would even be arguing from this standpoint. Understand what righteousness is. This will help to resolve problems. But it's easier to avoid that and feel as if it's the responsibility of the government. It's the responsibility of religion. It's somebody else's responsibility, other than we take this thing to the point of understanding individual introspection, individual accountability, knowing what the tenets of righteousness are. The world don't change unless we change. You have to become the change you want to see. Jeremiah 30 and 11. He says, "For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee." He said, "Though I make a full end of all nations, whether I scatter thee." Now, this is what I'm telling you. To make a full end of all these other nations, they're not going to have any power. They're not going to have any rulership. They're not going to have any say. He says, "Yet I will not make a full end of thee." And this is where I go back to say, for all of the atrocities that these Europeans have created within the world, they're going to have to answer for their crimes and their corruption. They're going to have to answer for all of the unrighteousness. He says, "But I will correct thee in measure," because we've been afflicted. We've been oppressed for our crimes, for the things that we've committed against righteousness. But they've not yet been judged. So just like we had to go through it, they're going to have to go through it. We're coming up out of it, as it says, Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning. Righteousness coming into the world. He says, "I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished." So, just as I'm being punished, we've been punished, they're going to be punished. Their offspring is going to be punished, and no degree of Christianity is going to matter. No matter how much they say, I believe in Jesus, and they confess with their mouth and all the lies that they've put out and or told, none of it is going to work. Number 12, he says, for thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable. Like, what has happened to us, it doesn't seem to be any remedy. From one generation to the next, we just seem to keep going through it. He said, thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause. Where are the people fighting for the oppression of the people and really gaining some headway? They don't exist. Money seems to buy them off rather easily, quickly. There is none to plead thy cause. What is the cause but righteousness? An end to corruption. He said that thou may be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicine. So for a people that are oppressed, as long as you allow yourself to continue within the understanding of the world, there's no medicine. There's no thing that's going to give you reprieve, solution. But the answer to the problem is righteousness. Living according to the standards, the commandments, understanding the judgments, the statutes. It's already spelled out in front of us. Psalms 83:3. They have taken crafty counsel against our people. So for the conversation that I'm talking about, the way we overcome this oppression, they have taken crafty counsel. They get into their board meetings and their G20 summits and G7s and the European Unions and United Nations, and they have these conversations to think about how to continue in deception, how to prevent righteousness and or a people within righteousness from rising up. So they'll spend billions of dollars. I mean, they print money. So they'll give you whatever they think will appeal, right, to your greed in order to use you as an instrument of their promotion. And a number of you have convinced that because you call it your job, that's going to be satisfying enough and or remedy. I mean, you can just say, I'm just doing my job. Then your job is trash because you're intentionally deceiving people just to live a lifestyle. As he said, you're feeding off of the oppression of the people. You're part of the problem. They have created crafty counsel against our people and consulted against thy hidden ones. The hidden ones are those that are oppressed, those that are truly designed to lead in righteousness. They are oppressed. They're hidden. And because they're oppressed and they don't have the money that you think they should have, that they're being held up within the mainstream media and Hollywood and all of these other venues that they use to highlight the people that they want to highlight, you overlook it. You overlook them. They're worthless to you because they don't have enough money. And you believe the more money somebody have, the more they have a voice. You're a fool. Deuteronomy 28:43, he said, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above the very high. Looking at the time and point that we were in rulership, that stranger has now gotten up above us very high. Prophecy is wonderful. That thou shalt come down very low. We know we're a great people, kings and queens, but what happened? We fell to our own ruin within our own rebellion against ourselves. Now we're being ruled by the worst of the heathen. And that's what he said, because we don't want to follow according to our heritage, our customs, our traditions. He said he's going to put the worst of the heathen. Whew, and boy, they are the worst. Acts number 1 and number 6. He says, when they therefore were come together, they asked him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time return again the kingdom of Israel? This is only saying God is not going to make America great again. The state of Israel is not going to rule the world. The Jewish people will be exposed as being frauds. All the lies and all of the corruption will be exposed. And the kingdom of Israel, that people, that government is going to rule the world. Or these prophets, this prophecy, it's not real. And for a number of you, I know it's just a lot easier for you to say it's not real. But when you look at all the things that we're confronted with in this world today, you can't deny the fact that these things are true. Ecclesiasticus 10 and 8. He says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Because we refuse to stand in our rightful place, then we're watching, or we have watched, the world being ruled by this one and that one and this one. And it just goes until we come back to our right mind to understand righteousness is the only way to rule. All of this evil and corruption is the example for us to look at and say, that's it, enough, no more. And to come to understand that never again can we allow it within the existence of society. Because it is said to be like a weed. It will overtake everything as we see it has done. Deuteronomy 28 and 45. He says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee. And you got people today saying, I ain't cursed. But when you look at the state of the world is cursed. What is wrong with you? The entire world is affected. Again, the water is polluted. The food is polluted. The air is polluted. There's global or climate change and the global, what is it? I can't even think of the thing, but the climate change and the global something. But all of these things are part of the curse. The disease, the war, All of these things are a part of the curse. All right. He says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. He said, because thou hearken not to the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he command thee. It's just that simple, y'all. But some of you still want to argue. Some of you still want to fuss about other trivial things that don't matter. Daniel 9:11. He says, yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law. All of God's chosen people have transgressed the law, so therefore we're oppressed. The world is under a curse because we have failed within our position being the stewards over the earth, to lead it appropriately within righteousness. He says, all of Israel has transgressed our law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. He said, therefore the curse is poured upon us. And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. This is the beautiful thing about what's written. Is when you can go back and look and see these things were discussed. And how when we went against them, it landed us where we are today, but it gives us a way out. It tells us what the turnaround is. Hear it, forbear it, accept it, reject it. It doesn't mean it's not truth. Psalms 83:4. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. This is what's happening, as I'm telling you. We're the most hated people in the world. These Europeans have made the pact within all of their unions and United Nations and the G7s and 20s. They have said, we cannot let these Negroes become a nation. Anytime we see them trying to come together, we will use the full force and might of our military and or whatever else, whatever other, the media, whatever we have to shut it down. Let's call them criminals. Let's call them extremists, black identity extremists. Let's make up a name, a black Hebrew Israelite. Let's do something to tear it down. Because they cannot become a nation. If they do, it means the end of our rulership in corruption. We won't be able to oppress the rest of the world and rob the resources and go in and take lands and just do what we want to do as we've been doing according to our blessing. So don't let them become a nation. So they spend and use within all of their resources to maintain the oppression. Oppression is an industry. For them, it's a very lucrative industry. Let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. They'll be called black. They'll be called African American. They'll be called Negro. They'll be called Indian. They'll be called Mexican. They'll be called Chinese, Japanese. I mean, we're everywhere. And we're going by all these different names that have nothing to do with the name the Creator gave us, that we're supposed to rule in according to being of that seed. He says, for they have consulted together with one consent. Talking about the Europeans and all of the other nations. I didn't write this, you all. I'm just articulating and or explaining what they won't tell you within the seminary schools, within their concept of theology and within their churches. They have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. It says the tabernacles of Edom, meaning the people. And then it goes on to name the Ishmaelites. These are the Arabs. The Moabs, these are going into your Japanese and your Chinese people. The Hagarenes, these are going into your so-called Africans and or the children of Ham, the Hamites, the entire world. We are the most hated people in the world, prophetically. You can't deny it. It said the list of the nations, it goes on and on. These are all the people that are against us. Undeniably. Oh, but they will deny it. They will say it's not true. And they will want you to think that for whatever we say is going on, it's just all in your mind. We're not doing anything. We don't have any meetings. But yet, it's still on record with the FBI that black people are a threat to national security just because they want unity. Y'all quiet about that. Daniel 9:13. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil is come upon us. Why? Because we're rebellious. We don't want to deal with righteousness. We want to be like the heathen. And because we want to be like the heathen, then we must be ruled by the heathen. And the worst of the heathen, for that matter. All this evil has come upon us, and not only us, but the entire world is suffering because we refuse to adjust ourselves to righteousness and to take our rightful place within leadership. Being strong to go against the forces. As he said, we're not wrestling with flesh and blood, you all. We're dealing with this going against. We're dealing with this trying to understand principle. We don't wrestle with the flesh and blood. Our challenge is understanding what righteousness is. He says, all this evil is come upon us, yet made we not our prayer before the Lord our God, that we might turn our iniquities and understand our truth. That's basically what I was just saying. Because we refuse to understand righteousness and we continue to indulge in the iniquity, in our lust. So we suffer. He said, therefore the Lord have watched upon the evil and brought it upon us. For the Lord our God is righteous. Some of you may not understand how that's righteous. One, because it was already expressed and or said, if you take this route, you're choosing death. If you take this route, you're choosing life. The Lord our God is righteous in all his works which he do, for we obey not his voice. This is happening to us because we refuse to be obedient to a proper standard. Deuteronomy 11:21. That your days may be multiplied and the days of your children in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon earth. Our days are multiplied, and we have heaven on earth when we're living according to the standard. He says, for if ye shall diligently keep all these commandments. That's a problem for a lot of people when you hear this. At this point, it's like, oh, that book, when you start talking about accountability, nobody wants to deal with it. Then it becomes the white man's book. Then it becomes, about Christianity and the trick. But then you ask, okay, well, how do we do it? How do we return to the state of perfection? They don't have any answers. They get to talking about building black banks and we need generational wealth. They get to going into mundane conversations. It doesn't make any sense. All because they're addicted to corruption. And you can't trust an addict because all he wants to do is stay within the guise of the addiction. Some of them don't even know they're addicts. But this is simply telling us, if we diligently keep all these commandments, which I command you, he says, to do them, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to cleave unto him. For a number of you, that sounds strange, but it's only saying, if you want to lead the world in righteousness, these are the rules. These are the standards. These are the laws. What's wrong with it? A number of you don't even know, you haven't given it a chance as to where you're already saying it don't work, it won't work, it can't work. But look at what's not working in real time. This world is broken and cannot be fixed within the state and the way that they continue to govern. I don't care who take position. If we don't do it according to the standards based on these commandments, laws, judgments, statutes, it's going to continue in a downward spiral. It's going to continue under the curse. Don't matter how much you say you believe in Jesus and confess his name. If you're not living according to the righteous standard, it's not going to benefit you. It becomes superstition. Number 23. He says, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you. Back to that part again. When the chosen people choose to stand according to righteous standards, all the other nations will be driven out, meaning their way and understanding will not be before us. They will be subjected at that point to righteousness. Why y'all mad? You should want that. Right now, you have the Europeans doing it within corruption. And some of you, you love the abuse. He says, and the Lord will drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves, because we're now ruling the world. He said, every place whereon the sole of your foot shall tread shall be yours. This is where in the beginning when he mentioned he's going to take us to our land, and I said, well, I want to see it. I'm not trying to be caught up in, oh, this is my land and I'm already home. It's like, no, I want to see what that is. But then right here, he tells you the entire earth is yours. Wherever your foot go is yours. But let's understand what that means, because some folk feel like that's just more oppression. What this is saying is everywhere we go, every place we move into will be governed by righteousness. The standards of our government will be everywhere we go. People will have to listen to the laws, to the judgments, to the statutes according to our government within righteousness. Every place whereupon the sole of your feet shall tread shall be yours under righteousness in leadership. From the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall your coast be. In other words, you all, it's just saying righteousness will rule the earth. We're not coming to take over Lebanon. We know people have to be in certain regions within the world. What it's saying is you're going to be governed by a proper standard. You're not going to be able to just make up how you think you want to do it. He says in 25, there shall no man be able to stand before you. This is what I'm telling you. No one is going to be able to say, oh, I want to govern this way, I want to govern that way. If you're not going to govern according to righteousness, you will not have a say. There shall no man be able to stand before you. For the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the lands that ye shall tread upon. Because it tells that if there's any nation, any people that object to righteousness, then you get dealt with. You get dealt with. Because we're not going to allow any more corruption and or wickedness to be in the earth. Nowhere. Because it's like a weed. It says if you allow just a little bit, you can see what it turns into. So nobody's going to have a say. And there will be no respect of the law per se, not per se, but there will be no respect of the law, meaning you won't be able to, just because you got Epstein money, feel like a particular law doesn't apply to you. Everybody's going to be held accountable to righteousness. He says, and he said, for the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that ye shall tread upon, as he have said unto you. As he said, you'll be the head and not the tail. 2nd Ezra 6:55. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou made the world for our sakes. For whose sake? For our sake, meaning for us to rule the earth properly in righteousness. The world was made to be ruled in righteousness. It wasn't made to be ran in the way it's We see it happening now. He says, as for the other people, because he made the world for us to rule it in righteousness, as we walk around and we're like, what's wrong? We know we're great. They know we're great. That's why they said, keep those people oppressed. Anytime they raised their head, they said, remove it. Anytime you see them talking about having a Congress, a liberation, separating from under, us within our governance, they said, go get them. Do whatever you got to do. Destroy their cities, flood their cities, destroy their records. Don't worry, we'll use our institutions and mainstream media to concoct a narrative and or make it sound like we're doing what's right. He says, because thou made the world for our sakes. He says, as for the other people, which also come from Adam, he said, thou hast said they are nothing. What does that mean? That means when it comes to what it means to rule the world in righteousness, all the other nations do not matter, that do not want to live in accordance to that standard. They're nothing. Then in the book of Isaiah, he says, they are less than nothing. And I'm just going to tell you, I had no idea. I had no idea that there was even such a thing as a less than nothing. So when you talk about the Most High, it should bring you to understand that there is also a value greater than the Most High. It's just we don't understand the mind of the Creator. And we've used our carnal learning to try and make sense of something too spiritual. Or as he say, it's a mystery. So when he says less than nothing, I know I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Ezekiel 37:23. Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols. So for us, he made the world for our sake that we can rule in righteousness. But because we went after the other nations, we've allowed ourselves to fall into idolatry, including religious idolatry such as Christianity. Christianity is someone's opinion. It's not rooted within the pristine heritage of the people. It doesn't run in association to these writings. They will not defile themselves anymore with their idols, nor with detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, righteousness. He said, but I will save them out of all of their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned. We have gone against the commandment. We have gone against the judgment. We have gone against statutes. He says, and will cleanse them. See, we have a way out. So they be my people, and I will be their God. We're not always going to be in this position and or this place. And they're going to run out of access to the resource that they can continue subduing us. But until that time, you all, we must stay diligent to rehearsing the righteous acts. And know, the more you plant your foot on doing what's right, the more they're going to use the society and all of their resources to come against you. They've set this thing up to where they reward you for corruption. And as long as you want to function within their venue, then they'll make certain you get enough crumbs to keep it going. Colossians 1:19. He says, "For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell." Where am I going with this? Because he said, "I will save them out of their dwelling place." Who and what are we talking about? Because then we come to the Father being pleased in the fullness of something, of someone. For us to be cleaned, for us to be removed out of this state, we have to have the comprehension of righteousness. The prophecy tells us that there's a time that's coming to where a change is going to take place, where you heard me talk about the celestial flesh and terrestrial flesh, right? Where we will get to stand with the anointed one. But in order to gain that privilege to stand in righteousness, we have to come up out of this filth. So someone has been selected to do this dirty job. And when you talk about what's above the Most High, because there's something that's less than nothing, it has allowed for the fullness to stand within the anointed one that's going to clean all of this up. Here we go. 2nd Ezra 9:7. "And everyone that shall be saved." Because some folks are saying they're saved already, but yet the world is plunged in evil. No one is saved until the world is saved. The world is under confusion. This is why the religion, it doesn't work. This is why it's of someone's mind, and why I'm saying it's someone's opinion. But prophecy is not someone's opinion. This is the truth that many want to deny because you can't get outside of your institutional education. For everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed. So there is an anointed one that we must have the faith. And we must do the work within rehearsing the righteous acts. And we must believe that righteousness is the way out. He says, shall be preserved from the said pearls, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders. For I have sanctified them from the beginning. That part. I've sanctified them from the beginning. Where he talked about in Ephesians 1 and 4 that there are those that were with him before the foundation of the earth was created. These are those of us that are here through the process of regeneration, not remembering certain things, but we're here and we're now in filth, within the corruption, oppressed, afflicted. But we're going to be raised up. We're going to be selected and or pulled out of the corruption. Accepted or rejected. It doesn't take away from the truth. Ezekiel 37 and 24. He says, and David, my servant, shall be king over them. See? This is where it gets intricate, because we want to deal with these writings from the sense of literally how we want to understand it or what we've been told. But now it's getting a little intricate. Because David, my servant, shall be king over them. And they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. This is where it gets confusing, and you have to come outside of your literal understanding and look into the allegory, the hidden meaning. Let me just say it that way. The mystery of God. We know there is the anointed one. In him, all the fullness has been given. But when it comes to how this earth is going to be ran, David is going to be king forever. Some of us, we can't understand that. What do you mean forever? He dead and gone. When we understand regeneration, and if you go to the YouTube channel, which this video will be put there. If you missed anything, you can go back to it. But the YouTube channel, there's a link on my page. You go onto my page, right under where it says Saturday at 11 o'clock, you click that link. It'll take you to the YouTube channel. You can watch the Prophecy 2026, Life After Death. We explain regeneration and how the souls return, but they don't remember who they were at one point in time. But here he's saying, David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes to do them. Jeremiah 30 and 9. He says, but they shall serve the Lord their God. But they shall serve the Lord their God. Okay. Terminology, Lord God, as I've said before, we get confused within that. First of all, their most brilliant scholars have expressed when it comes to Lord, they don't know whether it's talking about this or that. They don't know. Rightfully so. Thank you for being honest. When it comes to terminology like God, we can only deal with what we've been led to perceive. As I said, they have given us our monsters, our aliens, and our gods. But if we want to move beyond the literal sense of what we've been told, we have to start tapping in to what it means to exercise our sense. Otherwise, you're never going to understand it. These things were not meant to be understood literally. He said, but they will serve the Lord their God. In this instance, David, being king over them, he would be the first level to the Lord and or the God. This is who we would serve. I know this is confusing for a lot of folks because now we're getting into the working of order, structure. As much as we hate it, we don't want to talk about no order. We don't want to talk about no structure. 1 Corinthians 13 and 11. Well, let me say this. Because David, being the king over them forever, being the Lord and or the God, that doesn't take away from the anointed one. That doesn't take away from his head, what we identify and or call the Father. When we understand what the fullness of things are, and when we understand what the will of a God is, this is all within the working order of things. This is how government is ran in righteousness. Let me add that part. 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. He said, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. This is where we get into what the Most High is. The head of every man is Christ, the anointed one. That's where the Most High is. So some of you wrestle with that. But as I said, there is a less than nothing. And there's more to the Most High. Or there's more above the Most High. But let's understand what's being meant when we're speaking about it in the sense of order. He says in Colossians 1 and 18, and he is the head of the body. Dealing with this based on the mystery, you all. Get out of your literal sense of understanding and try to follow within the code of understanding. The head of every man is Christ. Colossians 1:18 says he is the head of the body. When you deal with the body, you have the legs, you have the arm, you have the cavity of the body. The head, you all, that's the highest part of the body. That is the Most High, according to the body. Some of you don't understand it. Some of you may be opening up to see what's being discussed within order. He is the head of the body. That's the Most High. John 1 and 1. Got to deal with it this way because for a number of you, you never heard this before. It's confusing. They're not teaching it within the seminary schools. Certain things being revealed is hard to understand when all you know is superstition and or indoctrination. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. Oh, what kind of riddle is this? But here it's pointing out who the anointed one is, who the fullness of all things will be put into, to where all of this dirty work, I'm going to let you have it. We're now coming into who the creator is. Because we've used this terminology before and it's just been all confused and or conflated. But just like there's a less than nothing, there's more than the Most High. And when we come to understand who the creator is, we're just getting more into the working order of things. Let's go. The same was in the beginning with God. We must understand when we talk about one aspect of God, it's in eternity. Does not know and or deal with time. It's eternity. Then you have the introduction and or the concept of God that deals with the beginning and the end, time. Revelations 1:8. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending. Say the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. We get tripped up on these words, the Almighty. This being the anointed one, we're going to come to find out this is the creator. This is the Almighty. Is he more than his head? No. Let's look at the addition to Esther coming out of the Apocrypha. 16:16. And the children, and they that be children of the Most High. First of all, we have to know who the creator is. Once we identify who the creator is, then we understand who the Most High is. And when you realize the creator within what's written is the anointed one, the Alpha and the Omega, he is also the Most High. We are the children of the creator. And the children of the Most High and Most Mighty, living God. Remember, he said, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He said, the Almighty. There's a less than nothing, and there's more to the Most High. But here, he is the Almighty. Esther 16:16, it says, and they that be children of the Most High and Most Mighty, living God, who have ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors, is the most excellent manner. Now, we'd have to know that through Christ being the anointed one, this is who ordered the kingdom. He gave the order. Did he just make it up because he wanted to? No, he is also following orders. But this is the progression of order. 2nd Ezra 13 and 29. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. Who's going to deliver the people that are on the earth but the appointed, the one that's appointed, the anointed one? The prophecy does not talk about anyone but the anointed one coming to deliver the people. It doesn't speak about the head of the anointed one coming. The work has been given to the anointed one, if we're going to follow what prophecy is saying. But we get tripped up in these words, and I'm just telling you, there's a less than nothing, so don't be shocked when you find out there's more above the Most High. When the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on earth. The anointed one is coming to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, and this is the Most High. He is the head of the body. You can't go beyond the head on the body. That's the highest point on the body. John 1 and 3. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. So we have to realize, we should know that the Creator is that beginning, that end, that Alpha, that Omega, taking the instruction, doing the dirty work, taking the marching order, and being within the fullness of righteousness. So the head of the anointed one doesn't have any problem with what's happening. It's you that have the problem because of the indoctrination and or because of the religious overtones that we've been given for ages and generations, that there was no understanding. But now that understanding is coming out in this age and in this generation, a number of you wrestle with it. It's okay. Because in the end, just stick to righteousness. And then these things will be clear. These things too will be revealed to you. In Colossians 1:15, he said, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature? This is talking about the anointed one. The image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature, who then created everything else, the Most High, the head of the body. He says, for by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible, invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions, principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. Now, let's go back to Jeremiah 30 and number 9. He said, but they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Do you all see what's happening as we're talking within the mystery? And if you're trying to deal with this from your literal sense of understanding, it'll never make sense to you. They will serve the Lord their God and David their king. When we serve our king in righteousness, we're serving in righteousness even that which is above the king, which the king has to answer to that order and or higher sense of leadership. But we don't want to deal with order and leadership. We think we can just break ranks. But there are levels and barriers to this thing. Genesis 49:8. He says, Judah, thou art whom thy brother shall praise. This is where I'm telling you that one you call the Negro is going to be at the forefront of leadership in the kingdom of God as far as ruling the world in righteousness. And where they're saying no king, according to the prophecy, there is a king in righteousness. But psychologically, they dealing with you again, just on a small scale, no king. So when you hear someone talking about a king, even in this manner, you still want to rebel, but to your own detriment. Thou art whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Why do you all have a problem with what's written? He said, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. The world is going to be ruled in righteousness through Judah. This is why the Europeans, within their need to hijack a heritage, are claiming to be the Jews. They want you to think it's them. But they don't fit the prophecy. They don't line up with what's written. Nor lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. And unto him shall be the gathering of the people, or unto him shall be the gathering of, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. See, again, this is how you know a state of Israel is not according to prophecy, because there's no gathering of the people. The writing doesn't talk about a state of Israel. It talks about the kingdom. That matters. 1 Chronicles 28:4. Howbeit the Lord God of Israel chose me before all the house of my father to be king over Israel forever. Now, this was in that beginning stage. Here you have David being chosen to be king over Israel forever, but yet he passed away. But when you understand regeneration, you would know these souls come back. They don't teach this in their theology. There's seminary schools and within Christianity, there is no coming back. But you can watch the video, Life After Death. We give great explanation as to what that is, and we use the verses to support it. Because they don't show you these things in their sermons. They hide these things. You can find it on the channel. Go to my page. The link is up there right under where it says Saturday, 11 o'clock. Click the link. Watch that video, Prophecy 2026, Life After Death. It'll explain it. But here, to be king over Israel forever. For he have chosen Judah to be the ruler. That's going to be the ruling head within the body, Judah. He said, and the house of Judah, the house of my father. And among the sons of my father, he liked me to be king over all Israel. Going back to, there's always one that has been chosen as that seed and or the Son of God. So here, he's being singled out to be that soul that was with the Anointed One in the beginning, before the foundation of the earth ever was. It's hard for a lot of us to fathom what that is, because we then come back under these different names. And then we don't remember the previous time. But you have trust and you believe in what's written. You come to understand the nature of righteousness, and you can see these things. Daniel 7 and number 9. This one, I know it's an issue for a lot of people. Again, because for ages and generations, we have been given an understanding within its limitation. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. That means all of the leaders and rulers of this world, they're coming down. And the Ancient of Days did sit. First of all, the head of the Anointed One deals within eternity. The Anointed One announced that he's the Alpha and the Omega, being the beginning and the end. He deals with days, time. He was there before the foundation of the earth ever was. The Ancient of Days being the Most High. The Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, meaning he only dealt with righteousness. He said, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. 10 says, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands and thousands ministered unto him, the Anointed One. Right? He said, and tens of thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. This is where it's talking about the Anointed One, how he comes to set things straight in the earth. Revelation 7 and 9. After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number. All nations and kindred and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Some will take that and say, oh, through Christianity, that's everybody. That's all the nations. We're finally going to get the love fest. But these nations, tongues, kindred, this is where he said he's going to pull his people from up out of all these places. Before the throne and before the Lamb. This is where we've been cleaned up. And then the books are going to be opened. He says, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sit upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Salvation unto our God, which sit upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. This is going to be hard, what I'm going to tell you. Salvation to our God that sit upon the throne. Our God would be, our Lord is, as it stated, the King, that being David. Although that's just a name now that we know how to identify him by, but there's a particular soul, like Elijah is a particular soul that always come before the anointed one. So let's not get caught up in the name calling or the semantics, but let's try to understand the guidance within the mystery, within the prophecy. Sitting upon the throne and unto the Lamb, the anointed one. I know it's different. I know for ages and generations, this has not been explained. It's okay. Stay focused on what righteousness is. And let these things be revealed even to you. 2nd Ezra 2:42. Ezra. He says, saw upon Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with song. He said, and in the midst of them was a young man of high stature, taller than the rest, and everyone, and let me see, is taller than the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and he was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So I asked the angel and said, sir, what are these? Here's an important thing to know about Ezra. When you read 2nd Ezra from chapter 4 on up to like chapter 9, this is why you can't deal with your literal sense of understanding, because when Ezra is talking to the angel Uriel, there are times within the writing that you can't tell whether he's talking to Uriel or he's talking to the anointed one, or if you're not in line with what righteousness is, then the wisdom and understanding to what's being expressed, it goes over your head. I'm just trying to make or give the understanding beforehand. But you go and you read 2nd Ezra from 4 on up to 9, and watch how within the discussion you will not be able to, based on your literal sense of trying to follow it, come to figure out who's talking. When did it switch? How did I get here? But through the course of revelation, these things stay consistent. And you're able to use the precepts to keep up with the twist and the turns that are put there to make it difficult, because this is not for everybody. In 45, he answered and said unto me, these be they which have put off the mortal clothing. Because we're moving from the terrestrial flesh to the celestial flesh, immortality, and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of God. This is not just saying, I believe in Jesus. When they confess the name of God, these are those who have talked about righteousness, who have done righteousness, who have stood in accordance with the Anointed One, having faith that by way of the Anointed, we can gain salvation through obedience to righteousness. The name of God, he told us, his word is the name of God. That makes righteousness the name of God, which is also the Lord, our righteous. Now they have crowned. Now are they crowned and receive palms. Then I said unto the angel, here's what I'm talking about. Like when you get into it, how it goes from the angel to where he's then talking, to the Anointed One. It's like you have to be able to keep up because it doesn't give a sign to say, oh, now it's switched. He said, what young person is it that crowned them and give them the palms in their hand? He answered and said unto me, it is the Son of God, whom they have confessed in the world. He said, then begin I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly in the name of the Lord. Meaning, in this world of corruption, you did not step off of the foundation of righteousness, no matter how much it hurt, no matter how bad they afflicted you, no matter how much money they offered you. Daniel 7, number 11. He said, I beheld then because the voice of the great words which the horn spake. He said, I beheld even till the beast was slain. This wickedness is going to end. This corruption cannot continue. He said, and his body was destroyed, meaning all of their governmental systems and the way the world is ruling right now, it will no longer be in existence. And given to the burning flame, as he said, the earth at this time is reserved for fire. He said, as concerning the rest of the beast, they had their dominions taken away. This is where he talked about the other nations are going to be stripped of their power. He said their lives were prolonged for a season and a time because they're going to be taken into captivity. Oh, I know that's a dirty word. Don't want to talk about it. Because we think they're just going to be forgiven. That's the way Christianity teaches it. This is why I'm telling you that's nothing more than someone's opinion. But in here, it tells us when they're prolonged for the season, it's because, one, they're going to have to give back everything that they've taken, stolen. And then they're going to be made to rebuild. That's going to be their judgment, a part of it anyway. He said, I saw in the night vision and behold, I saw in the night vision or night visions. I saw in the night visions and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. So here we have one like the Anointed One. He's coming with power. One like the Son of Man. In that image, standing for righteousness, with improper order. He says, and came to the Ancient of Days. And they brought him near before him. The one like the Son of Man that came with power, he was brought unto the Ancient of Days. The Anointed One. I know for a number of you, that's, again, it's just hard to get that. Because you don't see where he placed David as the king forever. But we know the Anointed One is the king forever. But he is the King of kings. And we are a nation of kings being ruled within Judah. Order, structure. Again, I know it's not something that's held within the seminary schools. First Chronicles 28:4. Howbeit the Lord God of Israel chose me before all the house of my father to be king over Israel forever. When we talk about this, one that like the Son of Man, this is the one that he chose to be king over Israel forever. This is who's coming with the power, following the rule or the discharge of duty that he's been given in righteousness. To be king over Israel forever. For we have chosen Judah to be the ruler, and the house of Judah, the house of my father. And among the sons of my father, he like me to be king over all Israel. Here's the one that's coming like the Son of Man, and he's coming to the Anointed One. Daniel 7:14. And there was given him dominion. So that one like the Son of Man, that David that is king over Israel forever, he's going to be given dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him, because he has been selected to be king over Israel forever. He's not over the King of Kings, but he's been given this position within order. All people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. David will be king forever, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Revelations 2:26. And he that overcome and keep my works until the end, he says, him will I give power over the nations. These are all conversations and things that they don't teach in their theology, their seminary schools. Catholicism, Judaism, Christianity. For ages and generations, this information has been sealed. But now we're fortunate to make the connection, to follow the Spirit of God as it's given within explanation. More importantly, order that we hate so much. But you have power over the nations, as he said. Judah is going to rule. There will be one king, one shepherd over Judah. Judah will be over the kingdom. But yet the anointed one is the head of the body, the King of kings, but yet we are a nation of kings and priests. We'll have kings throughout regions, throughout the world, ruling all these other nations in righteousness. I know. It's hard for some of you to hear it. Isaiah 60:12. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. The lawgiver is going to stand with Judah. The kingdom of Israel shall be ruled through Judah. All the other nations that have been stripped of their dominion and or power, if they think they have a word and or a say, he just said, all the kingdoms and nations that will not serve thee, he said, they shall perish. Because we're not going to accept idolatry and or wickedness in the world. We're being called to put the earth back on its proper course so that we can have clean water, clean air, pure food, that we won't have to deal with the disharmony within climate change, disease, destruction, all of these things that are plaguing us even within oppression. He said, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. 14, he says, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee. As he said, all those other nations will have to serve. Right now, y'all bend knee to the Europeans. You don't have no problem with that. Look at you. Some of you just so prideful. I don't bend no knee. You're under the construct of their government, of their rulership. Oh, you're bending a knee. But this is more specifically dealing with the heads of state, the other nation, world leaders, all those countries. They'll come bending knee, meaning accepting righteousness so that y'all can get out your feelings. He says, all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the sole of thy feet. It just means total submission to righteousness and the way we will rule the earth in perfection, properly. He says, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. In other words, they're going to give honor and tribute to excellence, something we have not seen. Revelation 2:27. He says, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, meaning all these folk that think I'm not doing it. When he talk about them perishing, they're going to be ruled with the rod of iron, meaning we're not accepting anything but righteousness. Why y'all mad? Why are you upset? Because we're talking about correcting the direction of the world right now. And that Europeans or white folks are not going to be at the head of it. Why are you mad? You should be excited that the end to corruption, death, destruction, the pollution within our air, food, and water will be over. That we won't be dealing with oppression of disease and famine, that these things will then be eliminated. That we'll have a proper standing within the world, but you're mad because you're evil yourself. You don't understand it because you're within the corrupt mind yourself. He said, we'll rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of the potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my Father. Here's the anointed one expressing, he's already been given this instruction that this is how it's supposed to go down. Daniel 7:15, and we're coming to the end. Right on time. Thank you all for coming into the live. As I said, if you missed anything, just go to my page right at the top under where it says Saturday at 11 o'clock. Click that link. It'll take you to the YouTube channel. This video will be up there. If you missed anything, if it means that much to you, you can go back and you can study. Because I know this is information that has not been put out by others. But if you search the scriptures, you'll come to see everything that I'm explaining is in accordance to the standards of righteousness, prophecy, according to the law. As he said, the volume of the book, it's written of me. Talking about the anointed one and how he's interacting with his creation. Daniel 7:15. He says, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, because he saw the devastation. But not only did he see the devastation, he also saw the end where we also come back to righteousness. But for all of the evil and corruption that he saw, it moved him, it shook him. He said, and the visions of my head troubled me. So all of the corruption outweighed the fact that in the end, he still saw that we stood in righteousness, but all of the pain and the anguish that people would have to go through in order to get to that point, it troubled him. He says, I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. And he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. He's in this vision. He said, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. He says, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. Going back to David being king, having dominion. The one like the Son of Man, coming with authority. The saints of the Most High, being the anointed one, the head of the body. those that were chosen before the foundation of the earth. The saints are going to receive the earth in righteousness to rule all the other nations. The saints are the true stewards, not those of the religion who just say, I believe in Jesus, and who have fallen under the banner of Christianity. As I've said, that's just someone's opinion. It's not associated within the pristine root and or heritage of the people. The saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. Yes, the Anointed One is going to come and set the stage, but the world is going to be ran by the saints. The saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever. This ties into what David was saying. He would be that king forever. He is the one like the Son of Man. He is the one being brought to the Ancient of Days. When we look at Deuteronomy, it tells us our women would not set the sole of their feet on the ground. A number of people don't know that. This is why, and how delicate our women are. And it's okay for them to be treated in that manner, but in righteousness. Psalm tell us she shall be polished as a cornerstone, talking about our women. Not only do her feet not touch the ground, but she should be polished like a cornerstone. Then it says her magnificence as astonishing as a palace. You all, I'm not catering. I'm explaining what's written. And then Psalm tell us the men will be as gods. These are the protectors. We have no idea what this looked like. He says, the men will be as gods, immortal beings, indestructible, without fear, understanding no weapon formed against us shall prosper. This is different. And for a number of people, it's too hard to hear. But if you want the truth, stand for righteousness and allow wisdom to be delivered to you by way of revelation, and get out of your carnal way of literally trying to understand this. And I know today, for what I brought out, it's challenging because a number of you have never heard these things before. But study the scripture. The video is posted, so you can go back to it and you can methodically look at what's being said. Again, you can find the video channel at the top of my page, right under where it says Saturday at 11 o'clock. There's a link right there. You click that link, take you to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. The videos will be there. So I just want to say, as I'm closing out, Christianity is someone's opinion. It's not rooted within the pristine heritage of the people. And I want to tell you, don't allow yourself to be persuaded and or misguided by the deceivers of this world. Put your trust in righteousness, that you'll come to know what faith is in accordance to the Anointed One. That wisdom will be given to you separate from the wisdom of this world. And with that, you all, I say shalom. The Lord our God is one. Thank you all.